Morning friends, today we are going to talk about the anatomy of orbit. Orbit is a region of the facial skeleton containing the eyeball and surrounding structures. It means it is the place or home for the eyeball on the skull. And as we know, skull is a bony thing, so there will be number of bones will be there, and there will be some openings through which the supplies of the eyeball will come through it, and certain muscular arrangement will be seen there. So basically today we are only going to concern with the orbit, the bony part. Okay, so this is the diagram which you see right now. It is the bony part or orbit which we are going to talk in detail. So first of all, we'll see the different type of bones which are going to form this cup-like arrangement or a little depression present in our skull frontal part. What are the bones? First one is sphenoid bone, then maxilla, which is surrounding our nasal part also, plus the lower margin of orbit, then zygomatic, which forms the lateral boundary, then frontal, you can see the frontal part from the above side, frontal bone, ethmoid, a small part which is present inside the orbit only, lacrimal part, more towards the medial side, and the nasal part towards the nose. Again, I will repeat one by one so that it will be easy for you to remember. So first of all, there is the most deepest one you can say, it is the sphenoid bone, then maxilla, which is towards the nasal side and lower boundary, lateral boundary, zygomatic, upper boundary or part will form by frontal bone, medial will be formed by the ethmoid, more medial will be towards the lacrimal bone, and the most medial will be the nasal part. So these are the different bones. You can count the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 bones are going to take part to form your orbit. Then we can see different types of openings are also present there. So what are the openings we have to see? The first one is optic canal. Again, you can see this round shape structure. It is optic canal. For what it is? The structures which are passing through the optic canal are optic nerve and ophthalmic artery. So these two things is actually going to supply your retinal part or the inner coat of the eyeball, which is optic nerve and ophthalmic artery. Next opening is superior orbital fissure. You can see it, orange color, superior orbital fissure. The structures is a big list which is going to pass through it, especially the cranial nerve number 3, 6, nasociliary nerve, cranial number 4, lacrimal nerve, frontal nerve, and ophthalmic vein. So you can see 3, 4, and 6 as a cranial nerve, and then different parts, nasociliary nerve, lacrimal nerve, and frontal nerve. These are going to pass through the superior orbital fissure. So this is a very important question which can be asked for short question. The contents or structures passing through the superior orbital fissure. 3, 6, nasociliary nerve, cranial nerve number 4, lacrimal nerve, frontal nerve, and ophthalmic nerve. Next is the inferior orbital fissure. You can see in the green color. Inferior orbital fissure. The structures which are passing are only two: infraorbital nerve, which is the branch of cranial nerve number 5, trigeminal part 2, and zygomatic nerve. So only two nerves are going to pass through it: infraorbital nerve and zygomatic nerve. Next, there is supraorbital foramen. You can see this part here. It is above to the boundary, supraorbital. Supra means above to the orbit. That's why the name is supraorbital. The structure which are passing is by same name, that is supraorbital nerve. So remember, this foramen is often incomplete also. Next is infraorbital. Here you can see infraorbital means below to the orbit, and here the structures which are passes again with the same name, infraorbital nerve, which is a branch of trigeminal second part. Next, there is fossa of lacrimal sac. This part you can see in the lacrimal bone. You can see the fossa of lacrimal sac, and the structure which is located here is nasolacrimal duct. Nasolacrimal duct is the part of lacrimal drainage through the lacrimal sac to the inferior meatus of the nasal part. Okay, so this is the nasal duct. So one again, let's see all the openings. So here you see the blue color optic canal, orange color superior orbital fissure. This is inferior orbital fissure, green part. Supraorbital here on the upper margin, infraorbital on the lower margin of orbit. And then in the lacrimal part, lacrimal bone, there is a fossa of lacrimal sac which has nasolacrimal duct. So this was about the bone and openings of the orbital region. Next thing what we have to study here is different nerves which are going to help in the different types of innervations to the orbit or contents of the orbit, you can say. So basically the structures of the orbit are going to be innervated by 5 cranial nerves. So first is cranial nerve number 2, which is optic nerve. It is only sensory nerve. You can see the thickest one, which is going directly towards the optic canal, transmits the visual information to the brain. So this is about the cranial nerve number 2, that is optic nerve. Next is third, that is oculomotor nerve. It basically supplies or innervates the rectus muscles. Exceptionally, lateral rectus is not supplied by it, and it is going to be supplied by the sixth one. Okay, LR6 SO4 is the code for exception. Rest is 3. So rest 3 means all other rectus like superior, inferior, and medial rectus plus inferior oblique, they are going to be supplied by the oculomotor nerve only. Next is cranial nerve number 4, SO4, that is superior oblique, will be supplied by fourth one, that is trochlear nerve, innervates the superior oblique eye muscle. Okay, so this will be the superior oblique eye muscle towards the superior side. Then comes the cranial nerve number 5. Specifically, it has 3 branches: ophthalmic, maxillary, and mandibular. So, in detail, we will talk in some other part also, but it is going to supply in the different regions of the eyeball in the orbit. Next is cranial nerve number 6. This is abducent nerve. This is basically going to supply the lateral rectus. So remember the formula LR6SO4. This is formula for the extraocular muscles which are also present in the orbit but not inside the eyeball. They are outside the eyeball. So this was the view from the superior side. If you want to see the view from the lateral side, again we can revise the thing. So this you can see the optic nerve. Again, this transfers the information to brain. This is oculomotor nerve, that's third part. Then fourth, it is going towards the superior oblique nerve, trochlear nerve. Then you can see the trigeminal nerve parts, which are going to supply the different areas of eyeball. Then the abducent nerve, which specifically supplies the innervates the lateral rectus eye muscles. So this is the total arrangement of the nerves in the orbit. So these are the all total nerves which we can understand: second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and then how they are going to do the different actions through different ganglion or different types of branching of the nerves, which we can study in detail in some other module. Now, specifically, if you see about the oculomotor nerve, that is nerve number 3. So this is important because this is mostly going to give the supply to the maximum of the extraocular muscles. So it innervates the rectus except the lateral rectus and inferior oblique muscle. The parasympathetic fiber snaps in the ciliary ganglion. So what happens here? To constrictor pupilla or ciliary body, then comes ciliary nerve. It innervates the eyeball, sensory, sympathetic, and parasympathetic from the ciliary ganglion. Then in the ciliary ganglion, you can see this is the ciliary ganglion. It is sympathetic from the cranial nerve number V1. V1 means trigeminal first part, that is ophthalmic nerve. Parasympathetic from the cranial nerve number 3. So here it is, we are talking about cranial nerve number 3 only. Sensory fibers from the eyeball. Okay, so there will be superior branch and inferior branch of cranial nerve number 3. Superior branch will give supply to the levator papillary and superior rectus. Inferior branch, it will give supply to the rectus muscles and inferior oblique, and through the ciliary ganglion via hot ciliary muscle nerve, it will give supply to the constrictor pupilla. So this is the flow chart for understanding the cranial nerve number 3. function. So this is the superior view. We can also get the lateral view for same particular thing also. So here also we can see cranial nerve number 3. It is giving inferior branches. Inferior branches are in two parts, one which directly goes to the rectus and one which goes to the ciliary ganglion. You can see ciliary ganglion here, this part, and then through the short ciliary nerve and gives supply to the constrictor pupillary and ciliary body. It is medial port, and from superior part it directly gives supply to the levator papillary muscle. Next, we see a little bit about the trigeminal nerve. The trigeminal nerve, as the name suggests, it has three parts. First is ophthalmic, second is maxillary, and third is mandibular. So we are right now talking about orbit. So mostly we are going to talk about the ophthalmic part only. So you can see cranial nerve number 5. This part, it has two branches. V1, we are only going to talk about here it only. The ophthalmic part, it is sensory branches to provide the sensation to the region of eye, orbit, and forehead. So eye, orbit, and forehead all are being supplied sensory by the V1 part only. Then it has three parts: lacrimal, frontal, and nasociliary. Lacrimal part, as you can see, passes through the superior orbital fissure and innervates the, as the name says, lacrimal gland, conjunctiva, and upper eyelid. Frontal part of V1, it also passes through the superior orbital fissure only and gives branches to the overall eyeball. Nasociliary crosses the optic nerve and branches to the medial wall of the eyeball. Specifically, the nasociliary will be towards the nose side, nasal side. That you can understand, it will pass to the medial wall of the orbit and eyeball structures on the medial side. Frontal part is further divided into two parts: supraorbital and supratrochlear. The supraorbital part, it gives nerve supply to forehead, anterior skull, and upper eyelid. You can see the yellow color part which is going on the superior side. And supratrochlear specifically gives innervation, sensory innervation to the medial upper eyelid, inferior medial forehead, and bridge of the nose. So this is the total map for the V1, that is the ophthalmic nerve of the trigeminal part. So that's the lateral view which you can see again from this side. So ophthalmic nerve giving parts: lacrimal part, nasociliary part, frontal part. Frontal part again gives to the supraorbital and supratrochlear part. So this is about the focus on the especially first part of the trigeminal nerve, that is ophthalmic nerve. Next is some summary about the nerves and modalities to the eyeball. So cranial nerve number 2, as you can see here, it is optic nerve. Cranial nerve number 3, it is oculomotor nerve. Cranial nerve number 5, it is specifically we are talking about ophthalmic branch of trigeminal nerve, and these lower two, that is oculomotor nerve and ophthalmic nerve, they are going to do the function via ciliary ganglion also and directly also. So then the sensory part, you can see sensory part carries the information from the orbit and adjacent area to the cranial nerve number 5-1. Okay, fifth one by sensory will be taken. For the motor, specifically cranial nerve number 3, that is oculomotor, carries both motor and parasympathetic fibers to the extraocular muscles in the orbit. So what are sympathetics? They travel via cranial nerve number 5 from the superior cervical ganglion at the base of skull. Postganglionics enter ciliary ganglion, continue to eye via short ciliary. So this, if something is going through this route, will go via short ciliary nerve, innervate the dilator pupillae muscles. So this is going to dilate the pupillae muscles. For parasympathetic, you can see the size is increasing and decreasing here. Pupil is dilating, pupil is contracting in the parasympathetic part. The efferent fibers travels in the cranial nerve number 3 and synapse in the ciliary ganglion. Postsynaptic fibers enter the eye via short ciliary nerve. It innervates the constrictor pupillary and ciliary muscles. So cranial nerve number 3 and 5 act via ciliary ganglion also, which are acting with the help of ciliary muscles. If it is working for the parasympathetic, then it constricts the pupil. If it is working under the assistance of the sympathetic, it is going to dilate the pupil. So this is the summary and modalities of the eyeball related directly with the nerve. Now you can see picture of ciliary ganglion right now here. There are sympathetic fibers which runs or travels along the V5, that is ophthalmic branch of the trigeminal, including both long and short ciliary nerves. So here you are only shown the short ciliary nerves which are going through the ciliary ganglion, which is the sympathetic fiber functionality or modality. Then comes the parasympathetic. The cranial nerve number 3 is going to carry the parasympathetic fibers into the ciliary ganglion, going to be synapse there, and continue to evolve to innervate the sphincter papillae and ciliary body again through the short ciliary nerves only. So these two modalities are going to happen through the ciliary ganglion only. For sensory fibers, sensory they carry sensory information from the eyeballs. So this was basically presentation for the ciliary ganglion specifically. So what is the blood supply or vasculature of your orbit region specifically? The ophthalmic artery supplies the blood to almost all the structures of the orbit, including the eye, extraocular muscles, and lacrimal gland. Blood from the orbital region drains into the cavernous sinus via ophthalmic nerve. Okay, so remember the word ophthalmic artery, it's going to supply almost all area of the orbit, and cavernous sinus via ophthalmic vein will be the drainage part. So this is the diagram which declares about the total vasculature. Separately, we are going to see the arteries and veins. So for arteries specifically, you see the arteries are shown here. How is the thing? The internal carotid. You can see this is internal carotid, which is branch of the ophthalmic artery. Ophthalmic artery gives certain branches. Lacrimal branch, which goes to the lacrimal side. Lacrimal gland. Central retinal part. Central retinal part will be going directly in the central part. Then there is posterior ciliary part. Then supraorbital part, which go to the superior side. Okay, so this will be the different supplies which will come from the internal carotid. If you want to see the lateral view, so here you can see internal carotid, its branch, ophthalmic branch, then supraorbital branch to the superior side, lacrimal to the lacrimal gland side, posterior ciliary, and central retinal, which is going just in the part of optic nerve through the optic disc inside the eyeball. So veins, we will not see the veins. So veins, they have to drain ultimately into the cavernous sinus only. So they will coming from the frontal bone, frontal vein, also called as supratrochlear vein, supraorbital vein, and lacrimal vein. They are going to drain into the superior ophthalmic vein, then via angular vein or inferior ophthalmic vein, or directly through, they are going to go into the ophthalmic vein, and ophthalmic vein is ultimately going to drain to the cavernous sinus. So this will be the total drainage system in the orbit. You can see this thing in the lateral view also, the supraorbital, frontal, you see the blue color, lacrimal, they are going to give to the supraophthalmic. It can be go directly to into the ophthalmic vein through the central retina. Also, the branch is going to come into the ophthalmic superior ophthalmic vein only, angular vein, inferior ophthalmic vein, and ultimately it will go to the cavernous sinus only. So there is a clinical point about the cavernous sinus thrombosis, and one is for the orbit also. So next part will be the orbital fat. Okay, what is orbital fat actually? So the space between the orbit bones and eyeballs is actually filled with some fat. So the eyeball bone will fit hoga, it will be something like this, and there will be some fat is present around it. So the what is the main function? The main function will be to help to stabilize the position of eyeball and acts as a socket for the eyeball to rotate inside. In emaciation or sunken eyes, what is going to happen? Starvation can result in the loss of orbital fluid, causing the eye sockets to look hollow. And in hyperthyroidism, you can see a specific condition is there, ophthalmos, where the volume of orbital fat increases, causing the eyeball to protrude outside. बड़ा हो जाता है, especially in the grave diseases. So this will be the condition something related with the orbital fat. In one part it will be decreased or depleted, in other part it will be increased. So this is the for the orbital fat. Next come extraocular muscles. Extraocular muscles, basically they are 7, but as they are directly attached only 6 one, so they are sometimes called to 6 also. So there are two groups: rectus muscles, superior rectus, inferior rectus, then medial and lateral, and then oblique muscles, superior oblique and inferior oblique. The total 6 muscles are specifically called the extraocular. So basically they are 7. Levator, pectoralis, superioris is also included in same group. Now if you see one by one, so there is superior rectus. It is supplied by cranial nerve number 3. Action is elevation, adduction, and intorsion of eye. Origin is from the common tendinous ring. Insertion is on the upper part of sclera. Then there is lateral rectus. Action is abduction of eye. Common tendinous ring will be again origin. Insertion will be lateral part of sclera. Then comes the medial rectus, now supplied with cranial nerve number 3. The action will be adduction of eye. Common tendinous ring will be the origin point again. Insertion will be medial part of sclera. Then comes the inferior rectus, again supplied by the cranial nerve number 3. Action is depression and extorsion of eye. Common tendinous rings will be the origin, same origin everywhere you can see in the rectus, and insertion will be inferior part of sclera. Superior oblique, it will be innervated by the cranial nerve number 4. Action will be depression, that is looking down, abduction and intorsion of eye. Origin now specifically remember, body of sphenoid bone, especially the lesser wing, above the optic canal, and insertion will be on the supralateral part of the sclera. And the last one is cranial nerve number, inferior oblique, which is innervated by cranial nerve number 3. It looks upside, that is elevation, abduction and extorsion of eye. Origin will be orbital surface of maxilla, remember orbital surface of maxilla, and lateral part of sclera will be its insertion. So we can see some different views also. So this was anterior view which we are observing till now, and we can also see the superior view. This is the superior view from the upside. You can see the superior rectus, lateral rectus, medial rectus, inferior rectus. It's shown in transparent because it's downside, superior oblique and inferior oblique. And if you want to see the lateral view from the lateral side, you can again see superior rectus, lateral rectus, medial rectus, inferior rectus, superior oblique, and inferior oblique. Okay, so these are different views which we have to study. Now there is one thing more, that is trochlea. So trochlea is actually attached with the superior oblique. Okay, superior oblique has something very specific, that is the muscle is going to through the trochlea. So what is trochlea? Trochlea is a fibrocartilage loop which is attached to the frontal bone. It acts like a pulley for the tendon of superior oblique, redirecting the force of the muscle. So the specific opposite type of movement which the superior oblique is going to perform, that is depression, is due to the force which is going to be opted on the muscle via trochlea only. So remember the word trochlea, it is the fibrocartilage loop attached to the frontal bone. So you can simply remember one thing, a mnemonic is there for extraocular nerve supply, LR6SO4. So exceptionally, lateral rectus is supplied by 6th cranial nerve. Superior oblique is going to be supplied by 4th cranial nerve. The rest all are going to be supplied by 3rd cranial nerve only. So you can simply remember why this small mnemonic about the nerve supply for extraocular nerve. Next comes the extraocular muscle axes. So there are two important axes, or two important axes we have to, axis of orbit and axis of eyeball. So axis of orbit, you see, this is passing. The extraocular muscles are oriented along the axis of orbit about 23 degrees from the axis to the eyeball. This makes the action of muscles more complex. So specifically the actions which are present in muscles which are present in these two directions, either in the axis of orbit or axis of eyeball, then the normal action will be something other than the what is going to be expected, especially about the superior rectus, inferior rectus, and oblique muscles which are lying in the 23 degree from the axis to the eyeball. Action wise, if you see, so extraocular muscles are going to do different actions which are involving the eye movement, abduction. You can see like this. It is movement toward the lateral, adduction toward the medial side, elevation, upper side movement, depression, lower side, it is going to come down side, intorsion, it is moving inward, extorsion, moving outward. So these are different movements which can be done with the help of extraocular. So this is a test known as H test. It assesses the extraocular muscles and their cranial nerves, means which muscle and which cranial nerve is going to be acted on what. So it can be checked by this small H test. The test is performed twice, focusing on each eye at a time. So you can see it is shown in the video, which is checking the things, and the names of muscles is also coming with that particular movement also. Again, I will show you the video, small video. Lateral rectus, they are checking lateral rectus, medial rectus, every time they two times, then superior rectus, upside movement, inferior rectus, downside. So this is called H test, which is for assessing the extraocular muscles movement. Okay. Then comes the lacrimal apparatus, which is also the part inside the orbit only. So lacrimal apparatus consists of not only the lacrimal gland, but also the drainage system of lacrimals. So lacrimal gland, you can see this part, it is present. It produces the aqueous components of the tears. It is nearly size of almond, badam size. Then lacrimal duct, these are approximately 6 ducts which discharge the production, that is tears, on the conjunctival sac. Then there is lacrimal canaliculi. Here you can see superior and inferior canals that drain the lacrimal fluid from the eye conjunctiva into the lacrimal sac. This part is lacrimal sac, which receives the drained tears. Then it is nasolacrimal duct, which transports the lacrimal fluid into the nasal cavity and ultimately reaches in the nasal meatai, that is 3 passages between the nasal conchae. Lacrimal fluid evaporates here, and paranasal sinus are also going to drain there only. So if somebody has to cry, so this is normal. All time we are crying only because tears are always produced. And whenever there is overflowing of the tears only, the tears come down in our cheeks. Otherwise, this is the common function of tears. They are going to lubricate the opening part of the eyeball. Next, there are some orbital relations which has to be seen. The orbit sets border with several important spaces. So like you can see, this part is ethmoid sinus. We have seen ethmoid sinus is located in the lateral mass of ethmoid bone between the orbit and nasal cavity. Next, it is maxillary sinus. The roof of maxillary sinus and floor of orbit shares the border. So these two parts are orbital relation related specifically with the sinuses, ethmoid sinus and the maxillary sinus. A clinical condition is there known as orbital fracture, that is blowout fracture. Since the floor of orbit is extremely thin, that is less than 0.5 mm in some areas, blunt forces trauma can cause fracture in it. The inferior rectus and orbital fat may prolapse into the maxillary sinus as a result. Here, a plate is shown to you to understand the left maxilla fracture with the herniation of orbit content. So this is all about the anatomy of orbit in an interactive manner. So that's, I think it will be very beneficial for you with some demonstration and the videos which are shown in this particular interaction. So we'll meet again with some other lecture. Okay, thank you.